I need to remember that it's the daily things that I do that makes the big difference. Hello, hi, and welcome. My name is Amanda. It's Monday, so I'm sitting down to review the last week in my bullet journal, and I'm going to talk you through my reflection process. I'm currently working on optimizing my weekly reflections, so they are a bit different from week to week. So I'm going to try some new things today with you, which is exciting. The purpose of my weekly reflection is not just to mark off tasks and see what I get done. I want my weekly reflections to be a full sit-down weekly check-in with myself. Imagine if you took the time to sit at a cafe with your best friend and just ask them, how are you? What are you feeling? How are your health, your physical, your mental health? Did you have a good week? What happened? What were the obstacles that hit you from outside that you didn't know was going to come at you? Are you content and satisfied with the choices and the priorities that you made? All of these things. So I'm working on my weekly reflection, and I thought it would be interesting to show you how it is right now. As you can see over here, we have the sun slowly joining us, so I hope you don't mind that. In my reference binder, I have this sheet of paper that I was supposed to use for something else and totally didn't. What I did was that I wrote down my weekly setup and planning routine. So I decided to write my weekly reflection routine as it is this week on the back side. Just a quick walkthrough of what are the different steps in my reflection. First off, I would like to go through all of the spreads that are in the week. So that is my goals matrix, my time log. This week I had a meal prep spread, and then my dailies. And I just want to mark off everything. Everything that got done needs to be crossed off. Everything that's just lingering, like notes and random thoughts that are just plopped in there in my daily logs, they need to go somewhere else because I'm not necessarily going to look back at these pages. I don't want to leave any information in them. So that is where I'm starting, and that really helps me get into the mind of like, how did my week go? What even happened? Sometimes it's very easy to forget what you did last Monday. After that, I would like to sit down. This is very new for me. I would like to sit down and just check in with myself. How is my mental health right now? Today, as I sit here, my physical health and my emotional state. I also want to use this to catch anything really in my life that is not working. If I feel really sad, why do I feel sad? Can I do something about it? Of course I can, but what can I do about it? And where does it come from? I'm gonna write down how I am feeling before I start reflecting on the week that has been. Because usually what happens is that I feel like I did bad last week. And then after I go through my reflection, I found out, oh, I actually didn't do bad at all. I did really good. So it's important for me to do this check-in before I reflect. So after the check-in, I go in and I reflect. Reflect on the goals that I met and think about why I met them. Was it because I really tried to? Were they easy? Did someone do it for me? All these things. I'm going to reflect on the goals that I did not meet and why. And then I'm going to reflect on my focus. And by that, I mean, I have 8 different priorities in my life, and it's often like there's maybe 4 or 5 priorities that I really worked well in, and then there were a few that I either set on pause or neglected that week, and I want to see the development from week to week if I always do the same thing, because then I'm definitely neglecting something. And then I want to reflect on the goals that I set. So I don't just want to set goals, check them off, make new ones. I want to learn to set better goals. And I do that by looking at the goals that I set, reflecting on how I did on them, and then reflect on, okay, how are my priorities? Did these goals that I set help me prioritize the way I want to? Did I set too many goals in a priority that's not as important for me and none in one that is really important to me? All these things. So I want to reflect on the goals that I set so that I hopefully get better at setting goals that make me go in the direction that I want to go in. The last thing here is to write down takeaways for next week. And then I just noted some other questions here because I have some questions I always like to ask myself, so I wrote them down here, and this could be an ongoing list. What were the challenges from outside this week? By that I mean challenges that came not from inside me, but from the outside. Maybe my car broke down. A sudden thing at work happened and I had to take an entire day out of my schedule to work on that. And then am I satisfied with my productivity and my choices around that? That's what we're going to go through. So let's get started. So this is my weekly goals matrix. This is the only spread that I use to plan out my weeks. And I basically have a vertical weekly spread with all different categories in my life. And I have tasks that are day specific down this way in all the columns, and priority specific, or whatever you would call these areas of my life. So I will just go through the spread. I already went through it yesterday because I was setting up for this week that I'm in right now. Monday the 23rd is today. So I was trying to close off this spread to prep goals for the next week, or the week that I'm in right now. It should already be all marked, but I just want to check that I didn't leave anything here. So I'm just quickly going to do that. Okay, so the only two things here that are not marked off are those two down here. And I know for sure that I have these on my monthly goals calendar. So I'm just gonna, they didn't get done, but I want to mark where I can find the open task, and that is scheduled. So that's an arrow that way. Next spread is my log of how I spent my time. I have my weekly focus, one per priority over here, and then I have takeaways from the last week over here. I just want to check that everything that needs to be marked off over here is marked off, and they are. And I did fill out this entire spread. Not that I would do that now if I hadn't, because I would probably not remember, but I'm happy to see that. Then I had a meal prep spread. This layout didn't really work as well for me. I kind of wasted this page over here. So I used it to stick sticky notes on regarding meal planning and prepping. So I did a different layout for this week. I'm just gonna mark that I did migrate these ideas for next week to the spread that is next week, or this week. This I actually dropped. Yeah, and this one is migrated, and this one should be migrated, so I'm going to do that. Like so. That is that, and then we go into my daily pages, and I'm just going to look for bullets that are open like that. Okay, so this is a suggestion to how to solve a problem that I actually solved in a different way, so I'm just going to cross it out, I think, like so. Okay, so Saturday I have a couple of things here. I want to look at my link tree. Where should I put that? I should probably put it in my goals matrix for this week. I'm putting it over here and not on a day because I don't know which day I'll do it, and I don't need to do it at any specific point. You know, there's no deadline. I just want to get it done. So that's why I'm putting it here. What was the other open thing here? I saw something. Oh yeah, I made a note about filters for Instagram because I currently don't use one, and I would prefer not to use one, but I see that when I do edit my photos, they get more likes. So I'm kind of tempted to do it. Like so. So that was Saturday. And then we have Sunday. Yeah, there's nothing open there. This is where the weekly reflection will go when I start writing stuff down. And I did a mistake here and made these boxes because, you know, I was just rolling So I don't know what I'll do with that. Now for the check-in. One thing to consider is the amount of space I have here. I have one page, and of course I could always go to the next blank page and continue, but I would rather keep it all here. So I don't know if I should do a brain dump just first on just a post-it note or another piece of blank paper and just figure out how I am and then write it neatly here. That will also help me be able to read and reference it later more quickly than if I were to write down everything that goes on in my head when I think about how I am. So I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna sit down and write down, how do I feel right now? I might not show it on camera and just show you the summary. Okay, so I wrote down about maybe 5 minutes, I don't know, just how I physically, mentally, and emotionally feel right now. I found that it was a bit difficult separating them, so I just let my mind flow and write down whatever I was thinking, because they do impact each other, of course. To summarize my week, I've been challenged physically from being pregnant. I am in my third trimester, almost 1 month from my due date, or the baby's due date. I always feel so weird when I say my due date. So I have forced myself to be less active in some of the things that I want to do, especially around housework this past week. And that really impacts my mood because I don't like clutter. I don't like that things aren't cleaned right away. It gets a bit more messy when the mom of the house doesn't do what she usually does. That's how it is around here anyway. So that has impacted me the most, I think, in all categories, physical, mental, and emotional. This week, and it's been like that for a couple of weeks, and it's starting to affect me emotionally to the point where I have periods where I just feel sad. I'm sad that I can't do what I normally can. I'm sad that I don't have as much physical contact with my son because I don't carry him around anymore. I'm sad that the living room is not nice and clean and tidy and cozy every time I go in there. I'm just sad that I can't do all the things that I would like to do for my family. But everything is for a time, and I'm not going to be pregnant forever. So that's what I'm trying to say to myself, and I'm trying very hard to tell myself that I need to rest. I can't do all the things that I normally can because my body is different and my body needs rest. Don't do it, Amanda. That's what I keep telling myself. We'll talk more about that later because it also affected some of the goals that I had here. So that's basically a summary of all 3 categories, and I'm just gonna write them quickly down here. Okay, and I'm making sure that I note exactly what it is that I'm writing about because, as I said in the beginning, this process is evolving and I want to be sure that I know what I was doing here. So that's why I wrote health check-in right now. It's not throughout the week, it's how I'm feeling right now. Okay, so that is the check-in. Now we are going to reflect on the goals that I met and why I met them. That's exciting. Okay, so to find the goals that I set myself, we need to go to the goals matrix. Actually, we should start with my monthly goals. These are my goals for November. And I'm just gonna read through these and reflect on them in my head and then write a summary here, I think. I might go back and forth. Okay, it's funny how I suddenly changed without realizing it from writing in English to Danish. So I'll just recap for you. I did, for the first time since September, and even probably longer than that, but since I started planning again in this bullet journal, I've done really good at my top priority, which is my alone time with God. It's been extremely difficult for me to prioritize it, and that's just bad prioritizing on my part. But I've been struggling so much with finding a daily routine that actually fit me, because I would prefer, and before in my life have always done it in the morning, first thing. But when you have a young child who's maybe up 3 hours during your night and you only have 4 hours of sleep or less, you can't get up at 5 a.m. to sit down and study your Bible and pray. At least I can't. So that's been very annoying to me, and I've felt really bad because I really wanted to happen. So I'm so happy that I finally managed it this week. And the takeaway I have from this success is that I set a plan to reach my goal. I acknowledged after a couple of weeks that it didn't work, and I set a new plan. And then I acknowledged after a couple of weeks that it didn't work, and I set a new plan. And I continued to do that until I found something that worked. And that's possible because I have a system where I plan and I track and I reflect. And that is what has brought me to this point where I have consistently used my prayer journal for the entire week this week, every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And for the past 5 or 6 days, I've been reading my Bible, which has only maybe happened twice earlier this month. So that's a huge win for me, and it's definitely doing a big difference in me as a person because it's tough right now in my life. My body's not functioning as it should. You know, of course, it's doing what it should because it's creating a child inside me, but you know, I can't do what I normally can. And that's mentally and emotionally difficult for me, as we just talked about. And going to God with that and just have Him comfort me is what keeps my mood up, and it keeps me happy and content, and like I know everything is going to be fine. So that's very valuable to me. I'm definitely bringing that into this week. Then I wrote that my husband and I are continuously improving our communication and ability to avoid conflict, and that's something we've always been good at this, but we have more deliberately been working on it for the past couple of months because we had a long period where we didn't communicate much because he was working very hard all day, all week. But we have more time together now, so we're really working on this again, and that's so nice. But that's just going great. It doesn't mean we don't have problems or conflicts. It's just that we are deliberately taking our time trying to figure out how do we solve problems together, how do we have a talk when we are feeling let down by the other one and not make it into a fight, that sort of thing. I have written here that I have done well updating our finance sheet. I was actually really good with it this week, and I'm happy because that is creating daily habits or weekly habits. So that's nice. Then I wrote here that I have done all of the reflections, plus I have finished my September setup. So that's a huge win. I've been working for a long time to do my AM reflection and my PM reflection consistently in my system because I know it makes a huge difference. This week I managed to do it. And then I finished my September setup, and that goes hand in hand with my filming schedule down here that I also kept up with because I wanted to set up for December in the second last week of November, and then I'm going to plan December this week, which is the last week in November. I had 2 goals that I needed to accomplish at once, setting up December and filming it for you guys. So that's been helping me, having 2 goals that had to be accomplished together to really motivate me to do it. And it's going to be great for me to have December planned and set up before it begins. Then I have some notes about my work here. It's not really relevant for you. Maybe that's why I changed to Danish. I have no idea. Not that you can't read it, but it's just, I don't feel like talking about it. And then I wrote that I've been more active on Instagram than I thought I would. So I met my goal plus some. Yeah. And then, of course, I wrote here, why did I meet these goals? And I wrote, most of these successes come from building daily habits successfully. And that is so good to acknowledge because in the future when I have something I want to accomplish and I try something and it fails and I try something and it fails and I try something and it fails, I need to remember that it's the daily things that I do that makes the big difference. So start there, start doing something small every day, because that keeps my focus on the thing, but it also makes me have small steps forward all the time. And that apparently works well for me. So that's a great tip from this one. Now I will reflect on the goals that I did not meet and try to figure out why. So I have gone through my monthly matrix and my weekly matrix now, looking for goals that I said that I did not meet. And I have some takeaways from last week that I want to evaluate onto as goals. Okay, so I'm just gonna flip through my daily pages because I have a top 3 tasks to do on each of them, and I just want to see how I did. I'm gonna look at whether or not they are crossed off, and if they're not crossed off, I'm gonna look further down and see what actually got done that day and try to evaluate with myself whether or not I did a good evaluation when I decided what was my top 3. Because sometimes I put something as my top 3 just because it's a big task and I feel like it's overwhelming me. But if there's a tiny task on here that needs to be done that day, that should be changed. So I just want to reflect on how I did this week, choosing my top 3. Okay, so I think I had 2 days out of 7 where I should have switched one thing around. And that's, space for improvement, but pretty good still. I probably cut out going through these pages because I was reading my journal entries to really remind myself how the week went. Okay, reflect on my focus between priorities. Okay, so from doing this, I noticed, let's find my priorities here. I noticed that time with God really was successful this week, and my reflections and finishing my September setup was really well, and my YouTube and Instagram activity was also pretty successful. I only uploaded 1 video this past week, and my goal was 3. which is probably a crazy goal to have, and one should be fine, and I should be happy with it, and I am. And I'm also happy that I prioritized as I did. I just kept filming because I can always go back and edit, but I need to set up for December and I want that on film, or on video. Social media, personal, and time with God is what really got my attention this week. The things that didn't get as much attention was definitely home and my son. My son because both of them, because I deliberately took a choice to try to let people help me, because I need to rest my body more, and these are the things that really push my body. So this is where I need to step down if I want my body to rest, and I do, because it needs it. So that is why there's a lot of stuff here that has not gotten the attention that I would otherwise like it to have. And the positive thing is that it was not me neglecting, it was me taking a choice to not prioritize as I set out to do, because I thought it would be better to do it differently, and I'm happy about my decision. So that is a good thing, even though there's stuff here that is crossed out, and that makes me sad. But I need to change the way I'm thinking. So I'm gonna write down a few sentences about my focus, and then we are gonna reflect on the goals that I set. Okay, so I wrote in what I just told you about prioritizing the different areas in my life. Last week I tried this for the first time, and I made a bar illustrating how far I am in reaching my monthly goals or weekly goals in some different areas. And I'm thinking I might do that again because it visually describes this really well, and it will be fun to flip back and forth. The only problem is here I took some of them and displayed my progress throughout the entire month instead of just focusing on this week, where I think this time I would like to just compare what I got done this week. So if I have a goal on a monthly basis, I'm going to divide it down and just focus on this week. Okay, so my son woke up from his nap and just had to take care of him, and I made a coffee. So I'm gonna try and have this take up as little space as possible here while it's still being there. Okay, there it is. That's the most compact way to visualize it that I could come up with. And I think it worked out great. So now we have reflected on my focus between the different priorities in my life. So now we're going to reflect on the goals that I set and try to really think about were they smart goals, not smart goals as in the concept smart goals, but was it smart of me to put exactly those goals? Going forward, I'm going to set less goals for myself regarding Adam, but I'm just going to let my husband and my mom take more care of him and set less goals for myself to let my body rest. And the same thing with the house stuff. I have completely surrendered cleaning to my husband. I'm still doing the laundry and that is going fine, and he's helping me carry stuff. It's my responsibility and that's no problem. And I enjoy laundry, so I would rather keep it to myself. Yeah, I think the goals that I set here were fine, and I have adjusted what I should adjust for this week. I actually was up to date with the laundry this week. I didn't need to do 5 loads, so that's why I didn't do 5 loads. I set a goal at the beginning of November to do a weekly Bible study, and I did that in October too, and it's not where I'm at right now. I would love to do it, but going from none to a weekly one is not realistic. As I talked about before, I need to go into the daily habits. So the Bible study is just going to have to wait to become a priority until I really have my daily Bible time down, and then I can go into a more in-depth Bible study routine. Then I have some work goals that was not met, and that is due to Adam's sleep being really bad. I have very few hours during the week where I can work, and if his sleep is bad leading up to that, then it's just not gonna happen. But I managed well last week, dealing with what was the most necessary and what couldn't wait, and I avoided being stressed, so that is nice, and I'm gonna do that this week too. That is gonna be one of my takeaways. And then of course there is the videos that I would like to have posted. I'm so new still that I still need to figure out how long things take me, and I'm totally fine with what happened last week. So I'm just gonna do my best basically. The one goal that I didn't meet that I would have liked to meet is regarding meal planning, and I'm still a bit confused as to why it didn't work out. I feel like blaming everything on the spread that didn't work out for me, but I don't think a spread layout can be the entire reason for me to not succeed at it. I do know that I didn't finish my meal plan for the week until Tuesday or Wednesday, and that is definitely a factor. So I was very particular this week to meal plan before the week began. So I don't know exactly why it didn't work out, if it was a lack of energy, a lack of interest, a lack of planning, maybe a mix of everything together, but I'm just gonna try to solve it in a new way this week and see how that goes. Yeah, so I will just write down a few notes about what I just talked to you about, told you. Okay, so I just wrote The only goal that I set that I'm very sad to not have accomplished is the meal planning. I'm still a bit confused as to why it didn't happen as good as the previous week, but at least I have tried to tackle it differently for next week. Kids and home, which is two of my priorities, was deliberately down prioritized, which is good. I don't know if down prioritized is an English way to put things or if it's directly translated from Danish, but at least I know what I mean. And now the last thing we have to do is to write down the takeaways for next week. I already came up with two, I think, yesterday when I was planning this week. One was to rest more and put less goals on myself, so I've eliminated all the cleaning from my goals. Okay, so I just wrote everything down at once. So I have 4 bullets here. First one is to continue my alone time with God. It's the goal that I'm most happy and proud of to have accomplished this week. So I'm definitely taking that with me. Then I have here to plan and to do less cleaning. And I have already planned less cleaning, so now I need to practice on the do and not do it. Then I have written down regarding work, to do only what needs to be done and don't stress about the rest. If the opportunity comes up to actually do more work, of course I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to stress over things that are for now just sitting. And then I wrote continue fun social media work because it just keeps my days fun at the moment. I really enjoy it. So we will transfer this till the week where we need to look at it all the time. So I'm just going to write them here. Ooh. I was about to knock my coffee over. Okay. Continue time with God. And then plan and do less/no cleaning. I do tidy the kitchen often, and I'm trying to slow down on that too. But yeah, I will definitely do some if you see tidying as cleaning. One thing I should put on here is my reflections. I definitely do not want to lose that daily habit. I'm just trying to work around the mistakes, the mistake I did down here with the boxes. So this is supposed to say continue AM and PM reflections. So that was it. I wish I had spaced this out a bit more. Just skip the line. But you know, sometimes things just happen quickly. So that was my weekly reflection. I should note up here when I did this, like so. I want to read the questions that I said here. What were the challenges from outside this week? It was definitely Adam's sleep again, and unexpected inside challenges was my body. Well, I don't know if you can still call it unexpected. I keep being surprised by being limited. I should not be surprised. Am I satisfied with my productivity and choices around that? Yes, I am. That is one of the main reasons why I do a weekly reflection. And I mentioned this before. If I don't reflect and look back and actually have something tracked to be able to look at, I will just hit myself in the head and tell myself that I didn't do it good enough, that I didn't do what I wanted to do, that I took bad choices and was laying on the couch all week, even though that is not what is happening at all. And that's the main reason why I started doing the weekly reflections, because I really needed to confront myself with the fact that I do a lot, and I have no excuse to hit myself in the head for not doing anything. I'm liking how I incorporated more wellness reflection into this and not just goal planning based reflection. So I'm definitely going to keep that. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you had a good time, that you got some inspiration. And if you would like to say hi, please do so in the comments. I would love to say hi to you if you stuck around for the entire video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, please consider subscribing. Yeah, I definitely hope that you got something from this. And if you want more tips and tricks and, just planning together, functional planning, definitely stick around. So all I have to say is goodbye, and that I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that you will take care of yourself till we see each other next time. Thank you and goodbye.